Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Attorney General William Barr is pushing back as fallout grows over the Roger Stone case. Stone, President Trump's longtime ally and friend, was convicted in the Russia investigation. Prosecutors had recommended Stone spend up to 9 years in prison. They all withdrew from the case after the Justice Department overruled their recommendation. Mr. Trump then applauded Barr on Twitter for taking charge of the case. There are questions over whether the president pressured Barr to overrule the sentencing recommendation. The attorney general will likely be asked about this when he testifies before a House committee next month. Barr is dismissing the allegations, but now says the president is making his job more difficult.
I have a problem with some of the tweets. I'm happy to say that, in fact, the president has never asked me to do anything in a criminal case. However, to have public statements and tweets made about the department, about our people in the department, our men and women here, about cases pending in the department, and about judges before whom we have cases, make it impossible for me to do my job and to assure the courts and the prosecutors in the department that we're doing our work with integrity.
I want to bring in Jennifer Haberkorn and Francesca Chambers. Jennifer is a congressional reporter for the Los Angeles Times. Francesca is a White House reporter for McClatchy. Welcome to both of you. Francesca, is the Attorney General chiding the president here? And if so, what kind of backlash can we expect from the president for Barr's comments?
Well, the difficulty for President Trump is that because he made those comments on Twitter, regardless of whether it is or isn't true that he directed his Department of Justice and his Attorney General to intervene in this case, that was the perception for Democrats on Capitol Hill and others. And so the Justice Department has since said, no, the president, it wasn't because he said this. We were already going to do this. We thought that the sentencing or the proposed sentencing was too strict. That's not how it came off. So that has become a problem for the president this week on Capitol Hill.
And it's also clearly a problem for the Attorney General. So, Jennifer, people who have questions over which came first here might also question whether the Attorney General is being genuine in his criticism of the president's tweets.
Absolutely. It was pretty shocking what Barr said, because the perception is that the Attorney General and the President are close, and this is clearly a bit of a smackdown from the Attorney General. At the same time, you know, he's saying what a lot of Republicans in Washington say, which is the President should stop tweeting. I mean, I hear that from Republicans on Capitol Hill all the time, that they're frustrated by what the President tweets, or at least that the President's tweets don't necessarily help their cause. And in this case, the Attorney General, you know, clearly felt like he had to make the same case as well, as he and the Justice Department and the President are facing all of this heat over the Roger Stone case.
And so, Jennifer, what are Democrats going to be asking Barr when he testifies next month?
Yeah, I mean, the hearing isn't for another month, so I'm sure the questions are going to change. But right now, the Roger Stone case seems to be at the top of their list. I mean, I can't imagine that he's going to get away without many questions about the sentencing recommendation, what the White House role in that was, what the president's role in that was. And perhaps what we saw from Barr today was fending off some of those questions. I mean, with the hearing not for another month, this story would merely brew in Washington if he didn't say something. That said, his comments are not going to tamp down the speculation that, you know, the Justice Department was acting at the behest of the president.
And so, Francesca, what is the White House then saying about Barr's March 31st testimony? Are they worried about it at all?
Well, not that they've said, but I would also tack on to what Jennifer said and say that Barr can absolutely also expect questions about whether or not the Justice Department at the president's direction is evaluating information that Rudy Giuliani gave to them about Ukraine, about Joe and Hunter Biden, whether or not they have been asked to investigate any of the president's political opponents. At times in the past, Congress has wanted to speak to William Barr, and he has declined. So they may have leftover questions from a few other times when they wanted to speak about the census or other issues that have come up. And Jennifer's right in that there's a month to go. There could be other things that come up in that amount of time.
Right. And of course, Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee are asking Lindsey Graham to investigate political interference at the Justice Department. Here is what Graham said when asked about it Thursday. Let's listen.
What happened here is that the effort to request a 7 to 9 year sentence by the frontline prosecutors was based on a legal assumption that there had been a threat against a witness, and the witness who was threatened said he didn't take it that way, and there was really no justification to go from 3.5 to 4.5 to 7 to 9. It will ultimately be made by the judge, and I trust her judgment.
So it sounds like Lindsey Graham isn't too worried there about the ultimate tweet of the president or the walking back of the guidelines. So, Jennifer, is anything likely to come out of that?
You know, Graham has been an interesting character in the last couple of months dealing with the president. It's a little hard to see him following through with the Democrats' request to hold a hearing, but at the same time, Graham has insinuated in the past that he wants to hear from some folks who have information to share about the president, and later backtracked. I'm thinking particularly he said he wanted to hear from Rudy Giuliani at one point, and then didn't end up inviting him to testify. So, I mean, Graham is a bit of a wild card here.
Right. And the president tweeted this morning attacking former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly after Kelly expressed his unease with Trump's decision to remove Alexander Vindman. So, Francesca, remind us of the backstory here. Why is that a controversial move of the president's?
Well, because the people that have been either ousted or left in recent days are all people who either publicly testified against the president or were known to be people who disagreed with him on the issue of Ukraine. And that also, it extends beyond just that issue. It also goes into an area now with Roger Stone as well, and whether or not the people who left, I mean, some of whom left because of the perceived political interference in the Department of Justice. But there was also someone who the president had nominated to a post who was also leaving now. And that's quite important because that person was seemingly moved out of that position because of all of this, and then moved into a different one. So it's not just one person with the Vindmans. There's multiple people. There's Gordon Sondland. There's Jesse Liu. There's a number of folks now in recent days.
And Kelly, in no uncertain terms, sort of defended Vindman's actions. He came under criticism from some Republicans, but Kelly said, no, look, this is the way we teach our people to operate in the State Department, correct?
So yes, like John Kelly, and he has been critical of the president on numerous occasions since he left the White House, like now speaking out about this particular issue and giving light to the issue. But there are obviously other Republicans, too, who are also speaking up now as well.
All right, just a pivot to the Iran powers resolution that was passed by the Senate today with 55 yeas to 45 nays. This resolution limits the president's ability to launch military actions against Iran. So, Jennifer, is the White House expected to veto this?
Yes, the White House would almost certainly veto this. What I was really surprised by is there were 8 Republicans who bucked their party to vote with Democrats on this resolution. So in that way, it's a victory for Democrats. It passed, but with the White House expected to veto, certainly they wouldn't have the veto, the votes to override the veto in the Senate, perhaps not even in the House. And so, really this amounts to a messaging bill, but it does send an important message. Senate Democrats and at least 8 Senate Republicans felt like it was necessary to send the message to the White House that Congress is the branch of government that declares war, and the White House shouldn't be acting without the authority that Congress needs to grant it.
Sure. And Francesca, has there been any response from the White House on this war powers vote?
Yes, the White House referring to the president's tweets on this issue while suggesting again that the president would veto this. And it's also worth noting that the Republicans who did vote with Democrats on this issue, Murkowski, Collins, Lamar Alexander, the people that you would generally expect mostly, and because there are only 55 votes, they would not be able to override a veto at this point, and there is no indication that on a second vote that they would be able to either.
All right, and we have also learned Hope Hicks will be returning to the White House to work with Jared Kushner. So, Francesca, what is her role going to be, and why is she returning now?
Well, no one's really clear yet on what exactly her role as counselor will be. That's kind of an ambiguous title. Kellyanne Conway is also a counselor to the president. She happens to work on a lot of communications things. It's unclear what Hope Hicks will exactly do for Jared Kushner. It was kind of a shock to some folks, quite honestly, in the White House today that she was going to be coming back.
All right. Well, Jennifer Haberkorn and Francesca Chambers, thanks to both of you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.